Hi, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Dan.
How did you get into the meditation game? What happened?
Well, I first tried meditation in college back in 1974 at Wayne State University because I had to work full-time, I had to go to school full-time, I had to party full-time. And so I figured TM would get me, with 20 minutes a night of sleep, I could handle the rest. Didn't work so well. It took me 8 years to get through undergrad. And then I didn't really approach meditation until after my accident when I broke my neck.
So can you tell us about the accident?
I hit a tree, broke my neck in 5 places, C2, C3, C5, C6, and T1.
You were skiing.
I was skiing. Slid down into cold water in a river where the water ran across the back of my neck for 2 hours while they tried to figure out how to get me out. It froze my spinal cord and it prevented me from being a quadriplegic. But I did lose most of the use of my left arm and hand, which I've worked over 14 years to try and recover that. The biggest problem for me was the pain. And no matter how much medication I took, and I was on 7 different narcotics at the time, thank God I'm not an addictive personality, so I didn't get addicted to any of it. All I felt was stoned, but I was still in pain. And so as I looked for a solution, it was suggested to me that I'd get some cranial sacral therapy. I looked at that and it was like, how does that work? Somebody holds onto your head and your sacrum, and you feel better. And amazingly enough, my cranial sacral therapist was able to get me off my medication in 6 months. I then went and tried yoga at the cranial sacral therapist's suggestion because I couldn't run anymore and I was getting weight and I didn't feel good about myself. And I thought that yoga was really for girls. And she proved, after working with one arm for a month, trying to figure out how to make it hard for me. After my first yoga session, I was in such pain. I figured, wow, this could really work, and I really started it for exercise. But as I started working with yoga, I started to realize there was more to it. Bought a book called The Heart and Science of Yoga by Leonard Perlmutter, which sort of related yoga to Western religion, and I was a pretty devout Catholic at the time. I'm now a Reformed Catholic. And I started this, pardon?
Nothing.
Yep.
I just like that word.
For a number of reasons, so that's a whole other different story. And as a result, became very engaged in the whole idea of meditation, the 8 limbs of yoga, read the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Pratibhijna Hridayam, the whole tantric text, and really got involved in meditation. And with that, I was able to get more recovery, and it actually created a better person out of all of it by being present and more mindful.
Were you at Aetna at this time?
I was.
CEO?
No, I was the senior vice president of operations, and then I went to president during this journey. So it was before I was CEO.
How did meditation help with the pain?
There's this part in my meditation practice where, you talk about, I have a body, I'm aware of my body, I'm not my body. And part of it I inserted into it is, I have pain, I'm aware of my pain, I'm not my pain. And the etiology of my injury is that I have an avulsion scar where the nerve root for C7 was ripped out of my spinal cord in the accident. And it's that spot on my spinal cord that is looking for feedback, and as a result of not getting feedback, generates a pain signal to my brain. If I can recognize the fact that that's the cause, it's not real pain, the pain ameliorates pretty dramatically. And so it was about that sort of reminding myself when I got into pain to breathe and to think about that. And that's, that whole journey was initiated by my wife, Mari, who's a great cranial sacral therapist and a yogi and an occupational therapist. And so she sort of took me through that journey. And as a result, I don't use pain medication. I use my practice to remind myself of the fact that this body is just part of the journey, not all of it, and that the pain that I have with it shouldn't dictate how I live the rest of my life.
So what flavor of meditation did you get into? Just talk me through.
Tantric meditation.
Okay.
So, Soham, I am that, and Vedic chanting before and after. And then Mari and I have worked with Sharon Salzberg, who's a friend and friend of yours as well, to do loving kindness meditation, which is fantastic stuff. I have a very different relationship with my dry cleaner than I had before, who was my unknown person, where I had no relationship, and all of a sudden we're like really friendly with each other, and it's kind of cool. So it works, by the way.
Just to break this down, the loving kindness meditation, Sharon Salzberg is the sort of premier proponent of loving kindness meditation in our culture, and I think to great effect. It involves, for those of you who aren't familiar with the practice, it's a Buddhist practice as opposed to the tantric meditation you were doing, which sounds Hindu. You systematically envision beings, usually or often you start with yourself, and then you go an easy person, and then a neutral person.
Right.
In this case, you're a dry cleaner, and you send, and it goes on, and you send, you repeat these phrases: "May you be happy, may you be healthy, may
you be safe,
ease.
and may you live with ease." Right.
Yes. So I often refer to this as Valentine's Day with a machete to your throat. It's incredibly annoying. But there's a lot of science that suggests it works.
It works.
And here we go. And then hence the relationship with the dry cleaner. Yeah, no, I noticed it in my own life. It does work. But
it was unprompted. One day I walked in, he goes, "Where you been?" I go, "Wow, I mean, like you knew me." I said, "I missed you too."
You really take care of your own dry cleaning?
Yeah. It's around the corner from my house.
Okay.
Just walk over there and drop it off. I do my own shopping. I do the laundry.
Okay. All right. You know, Mari's backstage, so I can fact check all of this.
I think she's probably out here. Mari out here yet? There she is. Do I do the laundry, Mari?
He does the laundry a lot more often than I do.
Okay. She just said he does the laundry more often than she does. So good. That's awesome. You've trained him well. I'm so glad my wife decided not to come today. Just tell me more, educate me a little bit more on because you kind of said it real fast, the tantric meditation. Break down what you're doing in your mind.
It's based off of a set of phrases that Leonard Perlmutter had in his book, which starts with, this idea of understanding your body, your emotions, your desires, and understanding that you have them, and that by understanding that you have them but you aren't them, you can begin this idea of losing attachment. And I think that's the big idea in meditation. Most people think you sit in the dark, you close your eyes, you sit silently, and all of a sudden these incredible thoughts come to you and you become enlightened. And that's just not how it works.
Not for you.
No, and not, it works for you?
I can't tell you what that.
Work for anybody? So the idea is if you sit and you have all this noise that comes in, it's very noisy. It's all these thoughts that you have in your head that you usually have in your head that you don't pay attention to. And all of a sudden when you're silent, you hear them. And what you have to do is you have to acknowledge them. You have to give them their due. And then you have to let them go. And if you keep doing that throughout your meditation over and over and over and over again, soon enough you lose attachment to some of these things. You realize how unimportant they are. And by doing that, you create this ability to be more present, to pay attention to the things that are more important, and to be, more zen. Part of the etiology of my injury is such that because I don't have parasympathetic response from my arm, whenever I get sympathetically antagonized, what happens is my arm hurts a lot. So in order to keep the pain away, I have to be more zen. I have to, and I'm not always, as Mari will attest as well, I'm not always zen, but the idea is if you can keep the sympathetic nervous system steady, I can avoid the pain that my arm will remind me of the fact that I'm not behaving well. And so this idea of losing attachment helps you be that way.
So you mentioned before that one of the benefits of the yoga and meditation post-injury was that it helped you become a better person. Did you just describe the mechanism?
That's the mechanism, yeah. Part of the mechanism.
So literally when you're a jerk, it hurts. Mm-hmm. It's great. Still glad my wife's not here. So you did a really interesting thing, which is you brought this stuff into
Work.
Yes. Tell me about that.
Well, I walked into a meeting one day and my team's sitting there. I said, I think we should do yoga and mindfulness here at Aetna. And meanwhile, Mari and I were having this conversation because she was reminding me of the fact that I was a big shot CEO and, flying around all over the place, and there were people that were not doing well. And so, her teacher and sort of my teacher, a guy named Gary Kraftsau in San Francisco, who runs the American Vinny Yoga Institute, which is the kind of yoga we do, said, I had these ideas, and he was really steeped in the spirituality of it. I'm a business guy, and Mari was the Rosetta Stone between the business guy and the spiritualist, right? About how do we make this practical? And they came up with this idea of doing something about stress. So I came into work and I said, I think we should do this. And everybody at the table sort of said, oh yeah, great, like they always do when the CEO comes up with an idea. And then about an hour later, the chief medical officer came in and said, you're talking about voodoo medicine. And this is crazy. People are going to laugh at you. And I said, well, his name was Lonnie Reisman. I said, Lonnie, what would it take for you to think this was a good idea? He said, well, we need to do a study. So we created bicoastal groups, volunteers, and a control group. And we measured pre and post stress levels through heart rate variability. We looked at the data surrounding people that were in the highest quintile of stress.
These are employees.
Employees. Yeah, employees. And we looked at the people that were in the highest quintile of stress, and they were spending $2,500 a year more in healthcare costs. And they were not present at work. And so we focused on, a practice that Mari and Gary created to reduce stress, and not just, the asana. It was the pranayama and the whole idea of meditation. We had people journal.
So you had them doing moving yoga and also meditation.
Well, yeah, yoga and meditation. So actually, when you look at the 8 limbs of yoga, it's all yoga, right? Yoga means connected. And so, the first 4, which are the yamas, niyamas, asanas, and pranayama, lead to the ability to create in your body the ability to sit in meditation. And then you have 4 levels of meditation, which ultimately result in samadhi, or total enlightenment. And so this idea of helping people learn these skills was part of our program. And we did a 12-week program. We had them journal. We did post-stress levels using heart rate variability. And one day, Lonnie walked into my office and goes, I'm embarrassed. I said, what's up? He goes, it worked. We reduced stress by 33%, up to 50% in the highest populations. We increased productivity by 62 minutes a month. We reduced healthcare costs by $3,000 for each of these people. And the most important part were the journals. Now, Mari was the teacher. People didn't know Mari and I were connected at the time. We kept that sort of quiet. And she'd come home from work and she'd say, these people are really, really stressed because you're killing them. You're killing them at work. You're working too hard. They don't have enough staff. They're not getting paid enough. They can't make ends meet. And so I started reading the journals. And it was amazing what was causing stress in people. And data always helps. But most importantly, we had people where we actually saved their lives. People that were going to kill themselves but didn't. And the whole program cost $179,000. So is that worth it? Hell yes.
Even from a crass economic,
Right.
financial standpoint.
Right. Is a life worth $179,000? I think so. And so.
But I mean, even in terms of productivity and
Right.
and
Yeah.
healthcare costs, et cetera.
But that was all the stuff we needed to get everybody else who didn't believe in this stuff to start to believe. It's a means to an end to get people to do more of it. And what ended up happening is it gave the organization permission to think differently about how we took care of ourselves and each other. And so all of a sudden, I started getting ideas throughout the organization. And then the idea I had, I was reading Thomas Piketty's book one Christmas before the holiday.
He wrote about income inequality.
Yeah, income inequality. And his idea was income redistribution. And so I gave a copy of the book to each of my senior team and said, this is your Christmas reading. It's a very dense book if anybody's read it. A lot of graphs and math. And over the holidays, I worked with my team to come up with an idea to take our minimum wage from $12 to $16 an hour, and to reduce the out-of-pocket costs for our employees under 300% of the federal poverty level to zero on their health insurance. We did it. We did it before anybody else did it. Doug McMillan at Walmart pointed at me in the audience one day and said, "You made me do it," when he raised his minimum wage $1 each. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of other companies have done it. But we did it. We didn't blast about it. We had the Peterson Institute for International Economics do white papers so that when other CEOs and economists started to attack us, we could say, here's why it works. We didn't see rapid inflation. But what we did see in our employees is huge increases in engagement, 1,200% increases in engagement. People were spending more time at work. What we couldn't understand was how well we were making decisions better. The stock price of the company at the time was at $72 a share. We're at $201 a share today. And the program cost us $50 million a year in total. So the math works. But the math didn't work when we did the spreadsheets up front, because people can't imagine all the things that could happen in the culture of the organization to make the change. And then what happened was this whole flood of ideas from our employees about what we could do better to take care of each other. So we raised tuition up to assistance up to $5,000. We now repay student loans up to $10,000 for people that have student loans. We pay people $300 to sleep 20 days in a row, 7.5 hours, because if you do it, you'll keep doing it. We've had 15,000 employees. We have 18,000 employees go through our yoga and mindfulness program. We have pet therapy now in our buildings where people line up to see dogs, cats, guinea pigs, and rabbits. The only time I ever said no was when they said, let's bring in mini ponies. Because I just can't imagine how you manage that from a mess standpoint.
Yeah, there's a lot of poop. Yeah.
Inside the building. And our engagement scores continue to rise. Our performance continued to rise. People in the organization were happy. I got free hugs walking down the hall. All because in 2008, 2009, we decided that we were going to do something like yoga and mindfulness for our employees. And now we do PTO banks. I give away my free PTO every year into the PTO bank.
PTO?
Personal time off into that bank in case people have problems at home. They got a sick child or the hurricanes. We now move all our employees to safe places when the hurricanes hit, before they hit, including their pets. And the whole organization has this feeling.
What if they have a pony?
Except a mini pony. Did you ever see The Wizard of Oz?
It's been a long time.
Let them go. Let the horses go.
I see.
But the whole idea was I never had to push anymore after the minimum wage increase, because everybody said, okay, we can do this. And it created a culture in the organization where we could care about each other and look at each other and find places where we could make a difference. It was huge. All because Mari and Gary insisted that we do something around stress reduction for our employees because we were killing them.
All because you skied into a tree.
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend it as a developed technique.
No, that sounded a little harsher than I meant it to. But
It's true.
It is true. These horrible moments can produce
Change you.
great change. So you're at an interesting moment now because as we sit here, you are completing a merger.
Yep.
Aetna's merging with CVS. CVS is buying you, if I have it
Right.
correct. So I know you'll be on the board of the new company.
Right.
But what if somebody at CVS decides, not only do I not like ponies, I don't like cats and dogs and rabbits, and I don't like meditation and yoga and paying people more?
So first of all, succession is really important. And so the person that I have been grooming for succession for a number of years, Karen Lynch, will now take over and run Aetna as a subsidiary of CVS. And I am relying on her to keep going. And she gets it. She wouldn't be in the job unless I thought she got it. So I think that's going to be critically important. There will be changes over time, and I can't begin to predict those, but it'll be myself and 3 other board members from Aetna will go on the CVS board, and my board was incredibly supportive of all the things that we've done for our employees. They never once asked why. Nor were our investors, by the way. The day after we increased minimum wage and benefits, I had 200 million of our 340 million shares in a room in San Francisco at the JP Morgan conference, and every one of them said, good idea. I never had anybody say, how much will it cost? So you get the shareholders you deserve, and we did very much to generate a shareholder base that supported investment in our company and growth. And so I think Karen's going to be in that role. I'll be around, as a voice, along with 3 other board members. I think it makes business sense to do it. So I think the proof is there, and a number of other companies have now done it, including JP Morgan, raising their minimum wage to $15 an hour. So I think there's a lot of positive that can happen there. I think the work that I now need to do with Mari is we've started a foundation called Anahata, which is the heart chakra, with the vast majority of the proceeds from the Aetna transaction will go into that foundation to be focused on community sustainability, which is the basis why we did the CVS deal.
To explain that.
So most of what's happening in our society today is that we now have social determinants of health that are driving the cost of our healthcare system. Where you live dictates 60% of your life expectancy. So we have in the Bronx here and in Harlem zip codes that have 20 years less life expectancy than Manhattan. And so unless we reestablish community and place, we're not going to be able to fix that problem. You only spend 0.4% of your waking hours in the healthcare system. The rest of the time you're in the world. And so how do you get closer to the world? You got to get into the community. CVS has 10,000 stores within 5 miles of 80% of the American public. So if we can create a new place, think of it as a tent with no sides, where we reach into the community, investing in social determinants of health, then we can make big changes.
How can you leverage CVS? I mean, I go in there and buy a Kind bar. How are they going to get me to, do all the things I need to do to improve my health?
So we need to start the conversation about health, about what is it about your health that gets in the way of the life you want to lead? Because that's the only way we're going to engage you. If we tell you what the ideal person looks like, the cover of Men's Fitness magazine, and we say that's the ideal version of health, we all know, the vast majority of us know, we're not going to get there. I'm never going to have those six-pack abs. I don't want to have the diet it's required to have those six-pack abs, right? And so the idea is if I can find out what is it about my current health that's a barrier to the life I want to lead, and somebody can show me a plan to reduce those barriers for me, I'm in. It's my plan. It's like triptychs. How many people remember triptychs from AAA? You get the yellow line down the page, shows you which exit to get off of. You get orange circles around the attractions, like Paul Bunyan in the Ox. You get the guidebooks in the bag, you bring it home, goes, here's the vacation. And everybody gets excited about the drive. What if we created triptychs for health, where we build that path for you? And we say, here's the path, here are the guidebooks. It's all about what you want to do. It eliminates the barriers for you in seeking the health you want to have. And then we figure out how to finance it afterwards. How do we make it the most affordable journey for you? Instead of selling you a warranty card, which is what insurance companies do today, and you go to your nearest dealership when you're broken and we try and fix you. So we got to flip that. And so our foundation, Mari and I, is about community sustainability, creating community, creating place, so that we can make a difference in literacy, in poverty, in environment, which is incredibly important, in making the world a better place and a healthier place. The opposite of health is poverty. The opposite of poverty is health.
Best of luck as you go through this transition.
Thank you.
Congratulations in advance.
Great to see you, Dan.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise. Thank you.